Just because you grow up somewhere or just because you think you fit in doesn't mean you necessarily do. And I feel like the personalities of the people around you matter a lot to how your day is going to go. It's so true that you all feed off of each other, and there's always personalities that mix or don't mix, and that can just change how you're dancing completely.
I'm Caitlin, a former professional ballerina turned dance educator and career mentor, and this is the Brainy Ballerina podcast. I am here for the aspiring professional ballerina who wants to learn what it really takes to build a smart and sustainable career in the dance industry. I'm peeling back the curtain of the professional dance world with open and honest conversations about the realities of becoming a professional dancer. Come along to gain the knowledge and inspiration you need to succeed in a dance career on your terms.
Hello, and welcome to the Brainy Ballerina podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Sloan, and I am joined today by Jacqueline Moscicke. Jacqueline has danced professionally with Milwaukee Ballet and the Joffrey Ballet and is currently working as a freelance artist and instructor. She is also the founder of MSeam Apparel, a dancewear company she started in 2016 while still dancing with the Joffrey. I had the honor of meeting Jacqueline. We were judging together for a 12 dance competition, and I am so excited to have her on today. Hi, Jacqueline.
Hi.
I want to start just by talking about your beginning of your dance journey. Why did you take your very first dance class?
That's a really good question. So, to start at the very beginning, my parents' first date was the turning point, and they both have no ballet background whatsoever, but I just find it funny that that's how they started. When I was born, basically the first thing I said was that I be a ballerina. So, it's always been something that I needed to do, not just wanted to do. And I started jumping off of things, and they would have to bring me to the emergency room. And then I started first class when I was 5 years old.
Okay, and what was that experience like? Was it everything you had dreamed of?
No, actually, I was quite frustrated with the other kids because I took it so seriously, and I wanted to do everything correct, and I would be mad if somebody was standing too close or like, was very serious from day one, and I wanted to always do more. And they had a company at the school that I was in, and they always said I was too young, so they made a rule that when you turned 8, you could be in it. So I auditioned and I got in, and it was really super exciting. My brother was in it with me. My brother did tap dancing. So we ended up getting partnered together for things a lot. And it was fun because the owner's children were also in the school with me at the time. So it was just a really overall great experience there. And to have a, solid family introduction to dance was important.
Absolutely. And then you ended up moving to the Milwaukee Ballet School to train, correct?
Yeah, I took 1 year when I was 9 years old, and then it just wasn't quite the right fit for me at the time because my parents were worried about going on point too early and just wanted to take it slow because then it started to really go full blast. And went back to the studio that I originally was with. And then there was another school from a dancer at Milwaukee Ballet. He had started his own company at 12 to Dance, and that was really exciting because I got to take class with the actual dancers sometimes. And I was maybe 11 years old, and getting to see all these professionals up close was a really cool experience. And then, funny enough, one of those dancers ended up being a Joffrey dancer, and she was still in the company when I started at Joffrey.
Wow.
Yeah, she was my first point teacher, Valerie Robin, and very important person throughout my life that we kept, passing each other, and it's really nice to stay in touch.
I love that.
Yeah.
How old were you when you decided to go to Milwaukee Ballet full time?
So the second time that I was there, they offered me a scholarship when I was 13 years old, and I'll never forget it because I was at an outdoor dance festival in Wisconsin, Mequon, Wisconsin, Gathering on the Green, and I volunteered for it every year. And the director of the school took me aside and had an interview with me and said, "We would like to have you back at our school. Would you be interested? We would offer you a scholarship." And I was, obviously flabbergasted and just excited at the time. And it was nice to see that someone thought I was a good dancer. And that really
Mhm.
meant a lot to me. So then I was put in the proper level, and they were doing a new Nutcracker that year. So that was also a good incentive to be at that school.
Yeah, absolutely. And what was that experience like for you growing up there?
It was great. I made really close friends that I still stay in touch with that did various other professional dance careers, not necessarily in ballet, but almost all of them have a job in arts still. So it's really interesting to see how all those kids took it seriously, and it was a better fit for me.
That was your first professional job as well, right?
hmm
So what was that transition like going from the school to the company?
It was actually really rough. I had high expectations for myself, and I was disappointed that I was older than I wanted to be when I was hired, because at that time I had heard all these stories about people being hired when they were 16 years old, and I was 17, and I was, oh, I'm so mad, I'm 17. But now looking back on it, I feel very proud that I was able to sign that contract before I turned 18, and
Mhm.
to me that was a big deal. And I was an honorary trainee, which meant I didn't get paid. So that was kind of frustrating.
Yeah.
Then I got offered a second year traineeship and they paid me that year. And I was kind of hoping to get into the company because I put my 2 years in, and they were like, no, we could do another year because the first year technically we were an honorary. So I just wanted to, be in everything sooner. So to me, it was disappointing. But once again, looking back on it, it's amazing that I was able to get in the company. And I know that not everybody gets to do that. So looking back on it, I was very lucky, but I always wanted to do more sooner.
So what was your first big role at Milwaukee?
Clara. I was in it as a child. I think I was 16, 17 when I did it, 15, 16, somewhere in there. My last 2 years of high school, I did it. And then
Mm.
I graduated from high school early to be in the company. And that year they transitioned directors, and he changed it from being a student part to a professional part. And I got cast as Clara as a professional, and I was so excited because it's my favorite part to do. And then they told me because I wasn't in the union, I couldn't do it. So I had the part
Oh,
taken away from me.
oh my gosh.
So it was really heartbreaking at the time too, because I was, I remember that phone call. I called my dad in the bathroom telling him I got cast next to Jamelia, who was a huge deal at the time. She's still so amazing to me. We're still friends as well because she ended up in Joffrey as well. So it's kind of funny that so many of us crossed paths at both companies. And to be cast next to her, I thought was the biggest deal ever. And then the next day to have that come crashing down was just a huge disappointment. And I feel like, the ballet world's like that. You have those high highs, and because you love it so much that even if it's the smallest disappointment, it feels like your world's crashing down.
Because that moment just feels so, yeah, it just feels like that is your chance. And it always feels like, what if I don't get another one? And of course
Exactly.
you will, but at the time it's like, this was it.
That's so true, because then I waited 2 years and I got cast as Clara finally, and
Mhm.
along with that I got to be Snow Queen. So those were very exciting things to me.
Can you talk more about, for dancers who don't know about the union process, kind of how that happens for you? Were you not required to be in the union? How did that shake out, I guess?
Yeah, so the trainee programs, because it's technically furthering your education, that's not union. So you have to wait until you're an apprentice or like a first year company member somewhere to be in the union. And you have that initial initiation fee that you have to pay. And obviously, when I was starting out, it was only $500. But to me, that was a huge amount because you have to get that in. But the union works with you. You can do payments and sort it all out. But I think it's really important to be a union member, and it's something to be proud of because not a lot of dancers are. And to have more people get involved with that is exciting too, because now I see that some other companies are getting more on board with it, and to have those 5-minute breaks, and you know what to expect out of your week easier then. So that was nice.
Yeah, my first company was not a union company, but our rehearsal directors were from ABT. So they would still be like, we need our five, we have to have the
Yeah.
schedule out by this time. And so there were certain things that even though we weren't officially in the union and with those kind of perks, I guess, we still had some things that were like, this is how they had worked their whole lives and they still wanted to run it that same way, which was nice.
I love that. And for those of you that aren't union members to know the difference too, that not every company has the same contract just because they're union.
Hmm.
So at Milwaukee Ballet, we had 6-hour work days all the time. And with that, if you're not in a certain part, obviously you're not in that rehearsal. But at Joffrey, when I started, it was only a 5-hour work day. and they could only have a certain amount of 6-hour work days per week. And because that was becoming more popular, by the end of the time I was there, all of the days were 6-hour work days. But when I started, I was like, oh, wow, this is so much easier. It's a short day. So it's interesting to see how that works.
Yeah, and that 6 hours is not including company class.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because technically you don't get paid for company class. It's a choice. Although, if you don't take warm up, obviously that your body's gonna not like you so much. And
Mhm.
it was implemented so you could take classes other places and not be penalized for it. And I do like that because in Chicago, there's a lot of options of places to take class. Although we just all took class at the studio mostly.
Sure.
Yeah.
So, how long did you dance with Milwaukee Ballet?
I was hired as a trainee in 2003 and then I left in 2009. But I was in the full company from 2005 to 2009. So 4 years. So it actually was quite short time.
But you were there for so long, I'm sure it felt like almost like your dance home.
Yeah.
What was the impetus for the transition to Joffrey?
That's a really good question. So I didn't really get a choice. I was let go. I've always had ankle issues. I had my first ankle surgery when I was 15. I broke
Oh.
my accessory navicular, which is that bone in your arch. I have hypermobile ankles, so I sprained them easily. And once that right one wasn't happy, it just had a lot of issues. And I had surgery, and I didn't come back in shape to their liking. And that's a thing where I felt one way and they felt another way. And
Mhm.
I felt like I needed more time, but they needed me to, do things a certain way. And I guess like that's always up to opinions.
Mhm.
So I was let go. But to me, it was funny because I was told I was going to be let go, yet I still got good casting that year then. So I was kind of confused by it too and hopeful that they would change their mind. But then come around January when we get our letters of intent, it was still a no. So I had to go do auditions. Luckily, there's a couple of people that really believed in me and said that, hey, if you can't afford to do these auditions, I'll pay for you to fly out if you need that. Like, we'll make it work. So I was very fortunate. And because I had been there, I must have been there for 5 years actually, because I got when you're in the union, when you're with a company for a certain amount of time, you get that payout at the end. And usually that kind of covers audition costs if you plan it that way.
Okay.
That helped as well. I got very lucky that the company that I had really hoped for hired me.
So what was that audition process like for you? Did you audition for a lot of companies? Were you just like, I am focused on Joffrey?
I did a handful of companies. I remember specific ones though. Nashville was a really good experience, and they let me sit in on rehearsals, and I already felt like a part of things. It was a very comfortable place immediately. Same thing with Austin Ballet. I had worked with the director in Milwaukee. He came and set his ballet with us, and so I contacted him, and he was very nice about the whole process. So I felt like everywhere I went, I was very fortunate that I was able to pick where I wanted to go, and one of them was Duluth in upper Minnesota.
Mhm.
That was great. And it's funny because dancers from Milwaukee Ballet, when I was there, are the directors now. So it's kind of cool to see how it's changed too. But that was a great option and ended up at Joffrey. And I did an open audition at Joffrey.
Okay.
And I think that was one of their last open auditions they ever had. So that was really exciting too to see how many people were there and the excitement of being in a room with so many dancers and to see how people are getting cut and to make it to the end was super exciting.
And then were you offered a contract on the spot, or did you just go home that day and kind of wait to see?
It was a pretty sure thing. So they told me that they were really interested, but they had to wait until certain dancers returned their contracts to see if they had an open spot, but that they were fairly certain that they were going to have a spot for me. So I had to wait until those contracts were due. I was in Nashville when I got the phone call that I was hired. So that was really exciting.
Dancing with Joffrey, how did that differ from dancing in Milwaukee Ballet?
Sure, that's a really good question because I actually feel more like Joffrey is my home more than
Mhm.
anything. I feel like I wish I would have heard this from someone sooner, that just because you grow up somewhere or just because you think you fit in doesn't mean you necessarily do. And I feel like the personalities of the people around you matter a lot to how your day is going to go. It's so true that you all feed off of each other, and there's always personalities that mix or don't mix, and that can just change how you're dancing completely. So I felt more at home and comfortable at Joffrey constantly. And obviously that changes towards the end too, always, because things change throughout history, and things go in a different direction. And it's interesting to see how the dancers change when you look at companies and if you don't fit in anymore and that kind of thing. But I was there for almost a decade, so it was really cool to see. When I started, there was still dancers that had worked with Arpino, and there's only a couple left that are still there. So it was a really fun and great experience because it was part of that like original group. It was very special.
What were some of your most favorite moments dancing at the Joffrey?
Oh, well, like my first moment dancing with them was great. I got in there the first week of rehearsals. They had us rehearsing everything. And it was so cool to see that it's so different there because you do a lot of touring and you're not just focused on one ballet for 4 weeks and then another ballet for 4 weeks, which is how Milwaukee Ballet works, where they have a 30-ish week contract, 30 to 32-ish, and 25 dancers ish, that varies,
Hmm.
but it would be set with what you were doing, and then that was it. And at Joffrey, it was like, okay, we might be doing Nutcracker in August because that's the only time we have to do it. Take a DVD home, figure it out. And then we were working on Gala, even though Gala is not until springtime usually, but it was one of the first things I rehearsed, and I got to rehearse Le Corsaire Pas de Deux with Victoria. And to me, that was the coolest thing because it was just four of us in a room, and to learn a pas de deux right off the gate was just super thrilling. And the first ballet I performed with them was Trinity, and it was at the Harris Theater outside with the candles. And I still have my candle that some of the dancers gave me for my first show, and it was in a Chicago shot glass. It's a really special thing that I keep with me. Just the way it was so welcoming, and that dance is such a group dance, and it meant so much to the company. So it's a really special one. They just performed it at the Arpino show this year, so it was pretty cool to see.
That's amazing.
Another favorite of mine though was, well, I had two favorites. In the Middle, Somewhat Elevated, the Forsyth Ballet.
Hmm.
So fun, such a fun thing. I sprained my ankle, unfortunately, about a week before the show, but I still performed. They just taped me up real good. I pushed through it. I was able to still do the shows and did it on tour, but then I had to come back and have surgery, unfortunately, because I pushed it too far. But I never had the chance to perform it again. So in that aspect, I'm really glad that I pushed it because it was so memorable. And Bells. Bells was a ballet choreographed by Yuri Pazikov, and we were part of that original group that learned it. And I know other people have toured and done galas with the pas de deux before, so it was kind of fun to see, and to see your name in the costume going out. And that's a really special ballet to me because my partner was Matthew, and we always got along really well too. And he left the same year that I left, so I feel like we're bonded in that way.
Talking about leaving, how did you decide it was time to retire from the Joffrey? I know you're still dancing now, but what was that process like?
That was really heartbreaking as well.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it wasn't my choice, and it was a really hard conversation with the director because I felt like things had always been going pretty well, so I was kind of surprised by it. You always hope that you can change their mind in some way, and I just wanted like that little extra to say I did 10 years fully, or you have like little goals in your head, and sometimes they don't see eye to eye with your goals, and it's pretty devastating to say the least. And I did a couple auditions afterwards, but didn't have my heart in it. I felt very defeated and unworthy as a dancer and unsuccessful. So it kind of ended it, I felt like I should stop dancing. Um, it was very hard.
That's really hard, Jacqueline.
Sorry.
You're fine. You're fine.
You can cut this part.
Oh my, no, I mean, this is real though. I think people don't realize. I think when you look at people's careers and you look at your career and you're saying you don't feel like you were successful, but you danced professionally for, over 15 years, like a major companies. You've had a crazy successful career. And it's so heartbreaking to hear you say that because, one person decided that maybe your time there was up,
Yeah.
you didn't feel like you had been successful anymore. And it's like looking from the outside, I'm completely in awe of everything you've done and everything you're telling me and these roles you've danced and stories you're telling us. This is amazing and so many dancers' dreams. And it is heartbreaking. I think people don't realize how many dancers don't always get to retire on their terms.
Yeah, that's a really good point because I talked to so many friends reached out from all over and
Mm.
had said so many of the similar things that they were obviously sad like I was. And
Yeah.
it's interesting because I wish there was more of a way to process that of like, well, what's now? Who am I now? You know?
Yeah. I feel like so many dancers go through that identity crisis.
Yeah.
I went into my last season knowing it was my last season and thought, "Oh, I know what I'm doing. I've made this choice on my own. I feel like ready." And even if I did feel ready, it didn't mean that I retired and was like, "Okay, now I'm ready for the
Yeah.
next thing." Like I really thought that in my mind, and then when it actually happened, I was devastated. I was pretty depressed for a while. I mean, didn't quite realize I was. It's really hard because not only is the thing that you've done your whole life that you absolutely love not there anymore, but your lifestyle changes. You go from being active for like
Uh-huh.
8 hours a day to all of a sudden not. And, that
Yeah.
messes with you. And having this time, I feel like I took for granted almost the meditative quality of a ballet class and just getting in the studio every day and having this focus. It's a really hard transition for many dancers.
Yeah, and there's a place you're supposed to be able to reach out, but a lot of dancers don't want to because they're afraid if they reach out too soon that they'll get the axe.
Mm.
It used to be called Career Transitions for Dancers, and I believe they changed their name now just to help dancers not feel like that there will be penalty in any way for reaching out to them. There's scholarships available for those that want to transition into something else and, startup ideas for people, a path to go on. Like any athlete, I guess, goes through that. Your career ends at such an early age typically, so that's rough. But I think that's why I still freelance because I'm still looking for that feeling of when will I be okay? You know?
Yeah. What does that look like for you now?
Yeah, I'm very, very lucky that I have a friend, Brian Grant. He runs a school out in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania now. He's given me multiple opportunities to dance with his company, Midwest Rep Ballet. They typically put on a show once a year in summertime. Last year, I got to do Aurora and Sleeping Beauty. That was such an amazing experience, and it really helped me process things and realize I don't suck. So, you have
Yeah.
the I really went through a rabbit hole of that I couldn't dance. And then you start actually seeing it in yourself where you're like, "Oh, that doesn't look like I thought it did." But now I feel like it's starting to look better and that my technique is okay again, but it's really an interesting thing. He helped me through a lot of that. So I'm very thankful. But I still do Nutcracker guestings as well. So there's a school in Illinois that's been very supportive as well and makes me feel like a good dancer, which is nice to realize that as long as I surround myself by people that believe in me, I think I'm in a much better headspace as a dancer and I can push forward with artistry. And I feel like if you surround yourself by people that don't 100% believe in you, that it's harder to let go and feel comfortable. So I think that's my new path. And I think I found a couple really good places. I'll be dancing Paquita this summer in Illinois. So I'm
Yay.
excited about that with a former partner from Joffrey. And then I will be heading to Pennsylvania this summer and dancing Dulcinea in Don Q's Dream Scene. So there's some exciting different things I haven't done before I've done Paquita before, but there's no video of it.
Yeah, that was our era, right? There's so
Yeah.
many things I have no record of. Yeah, I feel like a lot of dancers draw this line in the sand where it's like, if I'm not with a full-time company, then I'm not a dancer anymore.
Yes.
And realizing that it can look different now and you're still a dancer and you're still doing it professionally. It's just a
Yeah.
different, way you're going about it.
Yeah. And it's nice to hear that from so many more people. And I feel like being open about it has helped me a lot because I know a lot of people would say, oh, it was a mutually agreed upon decision. I know a lot of dancers that just don't want to talk about it and keep it very private. And I think I couldn't do that because I see it hurts other people that might have that happen to them in the future. And I don't think that Joffrey did anything wrong necessarily. They need to do what they need to do as a business. And obviously, it might hurt my feelings, but it's a business, and I respect that.
Yeah, when we're so tied to our dancing, it's not just a job. So part of us, and like you said, you knew from the time you could speak that you wanted to be a dancer. And so to have this moment in your life where you feel like, who am I now? How do I move forward from this? Is really, really hard. No matter, even if it's done in the most respectful, best way possible, it doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. And like you said, it's something that you're still kind of working through. And I think it's so powerful. And I really appreciate you saying this. It can maybe feel like, I don't know, embarrassing to talk about. Like, what are they going to think of me? And it's like, there are so many more dancers who've had this experience out there that we don't even know about. And just talking about it and being really open is such a powerful thing for other dancers going through it to realize they're not alone.
Yeah.
According to a survey of dancers conducted by Minding the Gap, 75% of dancers reported experiencing a mental health challenge in the past 5 years. To say dancers need mental health support ASAP is an understatement, which is why I am so excited to tell you about DanceSense Council for Educators. DanceSense Council for Educators gives you dancer mental wellness information, tips, and exercises in whatever format works best for you. Need a short video about how to help dancers through perfectionism? They've got you. Want to listen to a self-talk podcast on your drive? Absolutely. How about real-time virtual sessions with mental health professionals? It's all inside your membership. And this isn't just fluff. All resources are science-backed and created in partnership with DanceSend's Advisory Board of Mental Health Professionals. As a partner of DanceSend, I've got a gift for you. Enter code BRAINY at checkout to try 1 full month for free. You truly have nothing to lose. Try it out for free and see if it's the right fit for you. If not, no worries. Although I am pretty sure you're going to be as obsessed as I am. This membership is the real deal. I know you want to give your dancers the best support possible. That's why I can't wait for you to get your hands on this resource. Tap the link in the show notes and enter code BRAINY to try DanceSense Council free today. You started your own dancewear company, MSeam Apparel, when you were still dancing. So
Yeah.
how did this start?
Yeah, so there's a lot of rehearsals at Joffrey that required longer skirts at the time, but they didn't have a full set of just like longer character size skirts. So my friends were, looking to have something made for them. And then I started making a leotard for myself. And I just wanted to feel more comfortable with a larger chest and like pretty still, because I feel like sometimes you just get like a sporty look to you. And I wanted to still have that like femininity to me with a leotard and not have to wear a bra under it or feel like I have to cover up too much.
Were you already a strong sewer, or how did you learn how to make dancewear?
That's a really good question. My mom sews, and that was part of my scholarship growing up with one of the schools that I was at, was that she would help, in all facets of things, and one of them was costumes. So I learned how to hand stitch the tutus and always kind of was interested in designing things as a kid. I would make like sandals out of a Trix cereals box and because I wanted heels so desperately. So I took, like a little tube and a paper towel or something and made the heels out of it.
I love that. So you've always been creative and like figuring out how to make things. So
Yeah.
did you just find a pattern online and just started making leotards?
Actually, that's funny too, because I have a really hard time following directions with patterns. And I don't like to use pre-made ones because every time I do it, I end up alternating things on it or altering, I should say. I alter the patterns and they just don't work for me the way that I want them to. So I've always made my own patterns. I do copy, the sizing off of them. So I know certain dimensions that would be helpful for like spandex because obviously you don't make it to what your size is, you go under because it stretches. But knowing those things helps from a pattern so that I don't have to grade it myself.
This is bringing back memories of my senior year of college costuming class. And we told our teacher we wanted to make dancewear for our final. And so I was making a sports bra because that seemed a little bit easier to me than a full leotard, but I was really not great at it. And I remember actually during the final, I sewed my finger through the machine. I'm literally bleeding. And I took my sports bra over to my teacher and I was just
Oh
like,
no.
I don't think I can finish this. And she looks at it, she's like, okay, I have to give you a B though. I
Oh,
was like, "That's fine. Like, I'm bleeding." And then I think she gave me an A minus anyways because she felt
oh,
bad for me, but
the effort.
she was like, "Well, you tried. You left your, blood, sweat, and tears on the sewing
Literally on
machine."
it. Yeah.
So I am so impressed that you're able to do that so well and that you were essentially self-taught and make your own patterns is just really incredible.
Oh, thank you. And I still am trying to learn specific terms for things. I just did a webinar last week where I was listening in on how you can be more efficient with your business and how to draw online with your sketching instead of having to do it by hand, and that it doesn't really need to look perfect. So it was really interesting to hear all the different terms that they use though in the business, that I was like jotting notes down on that more than anything.
So you started making this dancewear kind of for your friends and for yourself, and how did it turn into a full-fledged business?
So it happened quite quickly. There's a dance boutique in Chicago. They have two locations, and someone had brought up my leotards to them. I believe it was a donor of Joffrey Ballet, and they like to go shopping there, and their daughter had worked there and recommended that they might be interested in my dance clothes. So we had a meeting, and it was a really fun meeting. They talked about a launch party and how it was all going to go, and they ended up carrying my dance line for a couple years in the Chicago locations, and they still have it online. They don't have anything physically in store from me because after COVID, they just went in a different direction. So that was kind of tough, but I'm definitely thinking about reaching out to other boutiques now that I feel like I understand how to do the business better, because it was so brand new at that time. I don't think you always make mistakes at first, and I'm still making mistakes, but I feel like I have a more of a flow with things now.
Yeah, what are some of the biggest things that you have learned through entrepreneurship?
How to price things and to have it sell. Tags were hard to figure out,
Hmm.
surprisingly. You would think that you could just go have a tag purchased online somewhere, but it was a little bit difficult to figure out and design all those things, and just search so much for like how to build your own website. And I know a lot of businesses hire somebody to do all those different things within their business, but when you're small, you don't have a lot of money to do that. So I was like trying to figure out how to keep the majority of the profits within the family and not need outside influences yet. But definitely learning how to delegate those responsibilities to other people is the most difficult thing, because I have a trust with just that tight knit group. So,
I struggle with that too because I want things done the way I want them done, which maybe isn't always the best way to do it. Like someone could have a much better way to do it, but in my mind, it's just familiar. And
hmm
so I want that. So it's change is hard and yeah, letting go and it's hard, but it's like so necessary for growth. And I'm kind of going through those growing pains right now of wanting to delegate, but being a little bit scared and not knowing how to get started.
yeah, the balance of it, like how much can you afford to have somebody else do? That kind of
Hmm.
makes it difficult too.
Logistically.
hmm
Exactly, and not being able to really predict exactly because in theory, being able to delegate, I should be able to hopefully increase profits because I'll be able to do more of what I'm good at if I can delegate other things. So that's like the idea, but who
hmm
knows if that's how it actually will go and you can't really predict it and so it's a little bit dicey trying to take that leap.
Yeah, it is. Yep. I guess that's just like the dance world too.
Yeah,
You take that leap to audition and you hope that one of those gives you a job.
that's a good point. Do you feel like your dance career prepared you for being an entrepreneur?
Definitely, because I feel like from day one, you have to run yourself as a business. And, some people are a business the way they file for taxes and everything. So that's fascinating in itself, is that even from age like 13, when you're going to summer programs and you have to be away from home at such a young age for a long period of time. And you have to make sure that you're getting enough sleep so that you're dancing properly. And you have to make sure you have clean clothes and that you're fed, and there's all sorts of things that you have to worry about right off the gate.
That's such a good point. I didn't even think about that. We're very mature at a very young age as
hmm
dancers, and you have to present yourself and know how to talk to peers and teachers because I'm sure you've experienced this where there's people you meet at summer intensives who become people you work with
hmm
and they remember you.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's funny because there was a guy I had met when I was 15 or 16 at PNB for their summer program, and he ended up being at Joffrey. And we brought in the photos from when we were kids one day, and it was really, really fascinating to know that, 15, 20 years later, you run into that person, and it is such a small world.
Isn't that so funny? My roommate, when I first started dancing in Missouri, she was can't remember what her official title was, but like director of operations of the company. And I had one of those t-shirt blankets, and it had a t-shirt on it from when I was at Pittsburgh Ballet Theater for the summer and had all the names on it. And she was looking at the blanket one day and she's like, "We're both on this t-shirt. Our names are both on here. We were there together and we never met each other. And now we're
Wow.
roommates, but it's such a small world." Like truly.
Yeah. Wow, that's crazy.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, that's great.
So what has been some of your favorite projects that you have worked on through MSeam?
Well, the one we recently did was pretty special. It was with a school in Indianapolis. It's KDO, Kids Dance Outreach, and a friend that I had worked with in Milwaukee Ballet runs it. And they have all sorts of different programs that they do to give back to schools and to help a multitude of different children. So it's really cool to see how big it is and how well they're doing. So that was a fun project. But other than that, it's a love hate with the tutus. I love to work with tutus and to make a art. Basically, you're just creating an artwork every single time, but the tool is such a pain to work with.
Yeah, can you say more about that? What is so difficult about it?
So you have 10 plus yards of tulle and you have to cut it at all different lengths. And the difficulty of it is that it's got to be about 10 feet long, roughly, different sizes for everybody. And you have to ruffle or pleat, depending on how people like that. And it just takes up so much space.
What is the future of MSeam Apparel?
I really would love to reach out to more boutiques and have our things in store in a wider range of states. And I would also like to focus more on designing myself. I would like to create swimsuits, perhaps like child, mom, dad, a wide range of family options, but that's like far into the future. Right now, I would definitely stick to dance costumes and clothing, but I do enjoy the tutu making too. And that's something I want to keep in the mix of things, but I really just want to focus on designing as a goal and maybe reach out to a manufacturer for the designs to do more of the boutiques.
Mm-hmm. And what sets your designs apart?
I like that we keep things quite simple and that I just have one print, and it's our signature print that a friend from high school designed. We did a lot of work together and it's very special to me. So I like to have that one thing, but for the most part, I like to just have simple lines, simple colors. And I think that looks very classic and neat, not messy.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that what you said
Thanks.
earlier about how you're designing it for different body types. Like you couldn't find a leotard you liked, for someone with a larger chest. So just having that inclusivity is so nice too.
Yeah, I like that. And I think down the line, I would like to do more like vintage styles. That always fascinates me. Like maybe like a 90s stripe or something fun, so.
That just that just kind of crushed me here, you saying that the 90s are vintage.
Yeah, no, I've been, yeah.
Because I thought you were going to say like a 50s style bathing suit or something.
Yeah, that's amazing. But it's funny when you think about it, though, because what we think of as the 70s, which, my parents probably were like, that's not vintage.
Yeah, exactly. I love that. I think that what you do is so beautiful, and I love the company, and I just am excited to see how it grows. And
Thank
I'm
you.
with you in those growing pains of entrepreneurship and trying to navigate all of that, but I know that we will figure it out.
Yeah, and I think it's fun because with fashion, I feel like the designs kind of grow with what I'm interested in. So currently I'm doing more sports tops and in that kind of adventure with it too. So maybe it'll follow with what I'm currently wearing.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, before we wrap up, I would just love to ask you, what is one piece of advice that you would give to dancers who are pursuing a professional career?
Oh, that's so tough. I guess I would say that just make sure you feel comfortable wherever you are, like how you feel comfortable at home, or hopefully you feel comfortable at home. Find that place where you feel comfortable, because it might just be that you need to have a different environment. It doesn't mean that you're not good at what you're doing. And there's definitely a place for everybody, just how there's different musicals for everybody. and different singing types. There's different dance types. And if you want to do ballet, do ballet. Don't let anybody tell you that you are more of a modern dancer or anything like that. I think as long as you're following your passion, that's important.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, can you tell everyone how to find you if they want to look into MSeam and get some new dancewear, or they want to reach out to you for freelancing or teaching? How can we find you?
Yeah, so on Instagram, I'm under MSeam Apparel, and our website is mseamapparel.com. We have a message button too if you want to send inquiries for questions about costumes. Also, you can reach me at Jacqueline Mo8, like the number 8 on Instagram, and send us a message there too. And either one is fine because I'm connected to both.
Okay, perfect. Well, I hope that everyone reaches out to you. And, when YAGP season's coming around, everyone, you're going to need costumes. So Jacqueline is amazing if you're looking for somebody for that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming on today and for all of your very honest insight. It's really powerful for dancers, and I really appreciate everything you've shared.
I appreciate you too, and I think you're doing a great job at podcasting and your book and everything that you share.
Thank you so much, Jacqueline. I will talk to you soon. Thank you for tuning in to the Brainy Ballerina podcast. If you found this episode insightful, entertaining, or maybe a bit of both, I would so appreciate you taking a moment to leave a rating and hit subscribe. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode, and you'll join our community of dancers passionate about building a smart and sustainable career in the dance industry. Plus, your ratings help others discover the show too. I'll be back with a new episode next week. In the meantime, be sure to follow along on Instagram at The Brainy Ballerina for your daily dose of dance career guidance.